I've recently bought into the mirrorless system with a Nikon Z8. And of course, for my photography, I needed a wildlife lens. And this is it. The Nikkor Z 180 to 600, 5.6 to 6.3. And I want to give you my first impressions. So today, I couldn't think of a better place to do that than one of the best birding locations in South Africa, Marieville Bird Sanctuary. Now, I checked the weather last night and the forecast was good. I probably should have checked again, but I didn't, and the weather changes quite rapidly in South Africa and it's looking a little stormy. Now, if we're lucky, that means we'll have some great cloud cover, but without the lightning. Now, when looking for the best lens for the Z8, for my needs, there are a number of things I needed to balance. Now, of course, 2 or 3 primes at different focal lengths would have been great, but the cost of those are pretty much out of the bracket that I can justify. So I wanted a good price point. Of course, I don't want to sacrifice image quality. And really importantly, after my recent trip to the Kruger National Park, I wanted flexibility of focal range, so that made zoom a must if I was buying a single lens. For wildlife photography and bird photography, the ability to quickly move between one focal range and another is pretty important to ensuring you don't miss shots. So they were the main criteria that I had, and I really didn't want to miss out on the full 600mm. So that kind of made the decision for me, and hence I bought the 180-600. Now, I've only had the lens for a short while, so I can't talk to you about real life experience in terms of durability, weather resistance, etc. Based on reading, Nikon do say that it is moisture resistant and dust resistant. I guess it's not going to be fully weather resistant in the way that one of the more expensive S-type prime lenses are. But I'll report back on that in a year or so once I've really put it through its paces. Quite a bit of walking to be done today. This paved road is great, but as we get further into the bird sanctuary, the roads become a little bit rougher, and my car is just too low to deal with it. So we're doing a bit of a walk, which won't do my fitness any harm. That sky is just terrific, huh? Let's hope that holds on without breaking into a storm. It's been a few weeks since I was here, but by all accounts the water levels are pretty low. But we'll head down to this hide, the first hide on the way into the park, and there may not be any water, so we may not get any photo opportunities, but I can talk you through the lens from a physical, aesthetics and ergonomics perspective.
When the water levels are up, this is an absolutely terrific hide for a variety of species. You can see there's a number of perches placed a reasonable distance from the hide itself. And when the water is all the way up to the hide, they offer great opportunities for capturing a variety of species, but especially kingfisher. Unfortunately, the water levels are pretty low, so not many opportunities today. I was going to use this as a chance to talk you through the main functionality of the lens. Unfortunately,
So now I'm here, the light inside the hide is just not going to work, so let's grab a couple of shots while we're here. There's no exotic species that I can see, but we'll grab a couple of shots so you can get the first impressions. So this footage is handheld, and the vibration reduction or image stabilization on video is pretty good. Not done any work in post-processing to stabilize this footage. I'm sure you'll be able to see them, but there's a couple of spotted thickney just up ahead of us. I'm just going to get close with trying not to spook them so I can get a shot. Oh, there's a long-tailed widow bird. There it goes. Just seen a black-winged kite. Unfortunately, he's pretty high up on a power line, which means that the backdrop is not going to be very interesting at all. But we'll see if we can get within range. So in normal circumstances, this would be full of water. Now we're coming into summer now in South Africa, and where we are right now in a town called Nigel in Gauteng, summer is the wet season. So one of the reasons we're so low is because of the time of the year, and that's fair enough, but the other reason is to do with the release of water from local mines. Apparently there's been some challenges with that over the last couple of years. So we're certainly not going to get the levels of water that we've had historically until that's resolved. That's a real shame, but there are still some fantastic bird species to spot here. I've seen flamingos in the distance. You've already seen the black kite, or the black-shouldered kite. We get marsh harriers, ibises. Sacred ibis is a beautiful bird. All sorts of waders. And my personal favourite to photograph is the kingfisher. And we get both the malachite and the pied kingfisher here. So with any luck, we'll have an opportunity today. A bit more water around here, but don't be fooled, it's not deep, but it attracts a bunch of waders. Right, this wall's in quite a convenient place. So let's have a look at the lens. Unsurprisingly, at the front, or the back, depending on your point of view, it's actually the back. We have the autofocus and the manual focus switch. Then you have the range limiter, so you can limit your focusing between 6 meters and infinity, or the full range. Now, personally, I never take it off a full, primarily because I know that if I go to 6 meters to infinity, then there's going to be some action up close, and I'm going to miss that action. So I leave it at full because I know I'll forget to put it back otherwise. My first major gripe relating to the 180-600 is this foot stroke collar. Nikon, what have you done? Or more to the point, what have you done again? Do you know anybody that doesn't use the Arca Swiss plate? So this foot is not an Arca Swiss plate. So you have to attach your own. You can, of course, get a aftermarket collar to replace this particular collar. And those aftermarket collars do come with the Arca Swiss plate. So there are options out there. But really, this has been going on forever with Nikon, and I really don't understand the logic. Worse than that, the size and the shape of the foot means it's not very good as a handle. So there really is not much use to it at all. In fact, I think the primary purpose of it is related to this ring. This is the manual focus ring. Now, in the settings of your Z camera, you can change the purpose of this ring so that it adjusts other aspects rather than just for manual focus. So you can adjust your ISO, for example. I personally don't use that, and the reason I don't use that relates to my comment about the foot. The sole purpose, I think, of this foot is to protect accidental movement of this ring. So the moment you remove this collar, which is straightforward to do, it's not easy to do with one hand, mind you. At that point, if you're using a beanbag or even handheld, it's really easy to inadvertently adjust this dial ring. So I certainly don't use it for focus. In fact, I've deactivated this in its entirety. In addition to that, you'll see that I've added a strap. Now, if you remove this collar foot, then you've got nowhere on the lens to attach the strap. Personally, one of the main reasons I bought this lens is because of its hand-holding capabilities. And therefore, I won't often carry the collar with me unless I'm using it with a gimbal. And in that scenario, when I'm hand-holding, that's exactly when I want a strap. So, not happy with that collar stroke foot at all. Conversely, one of my favorite things about this lens is the short throw on the zoom ring. With just a quarter turn, I can go from 180 all the way through to 600. Now, we've all been in situations with older lenses where you find yourself contorting your wrist and making multiple efforts to get from the lower end of the range to the higher end. This short throw is a fantastic feature, beautifully done, really smooth, and I really like that. Also at this end, you'll see there are function buttons, and there are a whole range of things that you can set against that function button. Now, I should note that there are actually 3 function buttons, the one there, one on the top there, and one on the other side, but you can only attach one setting. So the same setting applies to all of those buttons. Personally, I've attached the same autofocus as I have on my back button focus, so that if I'm shooting in portrait, it's much more comfortable than trying to reach for the back button. The lens hood is a reasonable size, plastic, so it's not going to take much dropping, but a reasonable size and does the job. The lens comes in just under 2 kilos. I think it's 1,995 grams, so near as worth caring about 2 kilograms, and it's 33 centimeters in length. Worth noting, another nice feature, not uncommon these days, of course, but it's an internal zoom, so it's a relatively compact lens considering the focal range, and that internal zoom means that you're at a consistent length of 33 centimeters. That excludes the lens hood, of course. For those of you into your specs, I'll include a full spec sheet towards the end of the video that gives you the detail of all of those technical aspects, the optical design elements, number of groups, etc., the minimum focus distances, filter thread size, etc., etc. If you enjoy this kind of real-world review rather than deep technical deep dives, please click subscribe to ensure that you catch any upcoming videos. Here we have behind me the flamingo. Let's see if we can get, oh jeez. Oh, well, over there, you see the bank of cloud. There was a bolt of lightning. It was a long way away, but we'll listen out for the thunder, but need to be conscious of that. Anyway, back to the flamingo. Let's see if I can get some footage with the Z8. Now, when it comes to video, I've got to be transparent. I'm no expert. I only really started using video at all when I started this channel 6 months or so ago. And all of my early videos were shot with a DJI Pocket 3. Fairly recently invested in a DJI Action 5 Pro, both of which are great, by the way, but for footage of wildlife, they're just don't have the range. As I say, I'm no pro, but this is already proving so valuable for me, and I'm still getting used to the settings. I'm still fumbling a little bit, but I'm getting used to it slowly. But when I do stumble across the right settings, more by luck than judgment sometimes, when I do, the footage is just fantastic, much more than I could ever hope for with the Pocket 3 or the Action 5 Pro. To illustrate the point, there are some flamingos out there, which I'm sure you can even see at 1x zoom on the Action 5. So let's just zoom into the maximum zoom, which is ×2, and you may just be able to make them out. Now I'll overlay the footage with the Z8 and this 180-600 lens. So I'm just about to enter the flamingo bird hide. Now the water level is so low that I'm not sure that I'm going to have the range from the hide, even at 600 mils. With this lens, I haven't yet had the opportunity to try the lens with a teleconverter. I'm moving back to the UK and all of my possessions, bar a few essentials, are currently on a ship, and that includes my teleconverters. So I've not had the chance to try a teleconverter. Of course, that would affect your f-stop even more. You normally lose at least a stop with a 1.4, so that's worth bearing in mind, but I will try it as soon as I can. Just keep my voice down, we're into the hide now. I don't know if there's anybody in there. So no, just me. And you can see how far away the water is. And again, in the foreground, you can see the perches that have been positioned for kingfisher and other species. But the water is a long way away. But there is a heron fishing, so I'm going to see if I can get a shot. Late afternoon now, and the light is absolutely stunning. See if we can do the heron justice. Autofocus is fast. Now, I mentioned in my last video that the eye detect gets confused by reflections, and whenever the bird is on the ground or on a perch, I found myself using the single point autofocus rather than 9.27 point or what have you, and that's been much more effective for me. But for birds in flight, the eye detect is just phenomenal, and for that alone I think I've fallen in love with this lens. So what are my conclusions? Now, it's not the first time I've used it, of course. I've used it a few times now. In fact, the first place I came to when the lens was delivered was right here to Mariavale Bird Sanctuary. It's one of my happy places. The lens just makes me happier. There's a whole bunch of good points to it. The autofocus is fantastic. The bird detect is great for birds in flight, not so good for stationary or slow moving birds on their perch, but it's just phenomenal. I love the video. It's a game changer for me, absolute game changer. And of course, critically for me, as a wildlife photographer who wants to be able to be on foot with as little gear as possible, it just gives me that huge flexibility. The internal zoom, 180 to 600, is just phenomenal for me. And the most critical thing of all, the image quality. From my perspective, I think the image quality is fantastic. I compare it to my 600mm f4 prime, and if you've watched any of my videos, you will know that I'm in love with that lens. It's the old G version, weighs a ton, but is stunning. And I don't see any real difference in the image quality at 600mm, especially when I'm shooting at f8 on this lens. I just think it's phenomenal. The image quality is superb, and when you factor in the price point of this lens, I just don't think there's any debate. It's huge value for money, hugely flexible, great image quality, autofocus is superb. I'm astounded by it. I think it's fantastic, and it will be my go-to lens for my wildlife photography going forward. There are some negative points to it. That foot, it frustrates me no end. One of the most important pieces about the foot, from my perspective, is the ability to use it as a handle. Well, I've got small hands, but this handle is just this foot is just too small to carry comfortably. And then layer on top of that, you've then got to add your own Arca Swiss mount to it, and then it just becomes uncomfortable as well as unwieldy. It's just such a ridiculous way to attract negative comments when all of the functionality of their lens is superb. Something as small as that can detract. It won't stop me being in love with the lens, of course, but it is frustrating and irritating. Now, of course, it is 5.6 to 6.3, which in low light is not ideal, and that stop or two of light that you lose from a more expensive prime lens will make a difference, and you'll have to bump your ISO, especially in low light conditions. Now, of course, we're wildlife photographers, bird photographers. You're going to be shooting in low light at either end of the day, so that is something that we're going to have to deal with. But with modern cameras and with software, noise isn't a massive issue with ISO these days. Other than that, I can't really talk about build quality yet. It feels fine, it seems fine. It's obviously not what you're going to get with a high-end Z lens, the S range, but I think it's going to be fine, and I won't know that until I've really put it through its paces in lots of different environments, lots of different weather, in 6 months, 12 months, I'll have a much better idea. But based on what I know right now, I think it'll be fine. Nikon is sure that it's moisture resistant and dust resistant. Won't be the full weatherproofing that you'll get with the S range, but we'll see how that plays out. For now, I'm very happy. So in short, I think I've made the right decision, and I suffer a lot from buyer's regret. So, but I think I've made the right call here. I think it's the perfect lens for my needs. So the sun is getting low, and it's time for me to head back. I've got a 2 or 3 kilometre walk back to the car. I've left it a little tight, as I always do, before the gates close. But if I keep my pace up, I should be fine. It's a shame I can't stay until sunset, but alas, them's the rules. And here's those specifications I promised you. Just saw another black-winged kite. Same place as we saw it before, but got a few shots which I'll show you now, backlit. Sun was behind. As you can see, the sun is setting low. Let me show you those shots now. Let me know what you think about those shots and the video in general. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Drop me your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them and I respond to as many as I possibly can. Would be fantastically grateful if you would click on the subscribe button. You'll get notified of any future videos as I publish them. I hope to see you in one of those. Until then, please take care. Bye bye.